everyone, Lalaine Art Geek here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my MegaCon 2025 Artist Alley review. Like I mentioned in my last Artist Alley review video, I'm starting to do reviews for Artist Alleys instead of vlogs because I'm burnt out from vlogging right now, and I think making review videos gets straight to the points of each event rather than just waiting until the end of the vlog to hear my thoughts. But eventually I'll vlog again at events, but for now, I hope you enjoy this type of format. I have a lot to talk about for this con, both good and bad things, so I hope that you're getting comfortable, you have a snack and a drink, and let's discuss my experience in Artist Alley at MegaCon Orlando 2025. To provide more information about this convention for those that may not know about it, MegaCon Orlando is a large 4-day pop culture convention held at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida within the March and spring season each year. Even though this year and the last year when I attended for the first time, it was technically held during the February and winter season. Just like with any other pop culture convention, it celebrates almost every community within the pop culture space, such as sci-fi, fantasy, gaming, RPG, anime, and more. And I was pretty shocked to learn this, but for the year in 2025, for this year, MegaCon had more than 210,000 attendees. I knew that it was a really large convention, but I was in awe when I read that number, and I thought last year's number was intense, which was like about 190,000 attendees. For 2025, the concourse had changed locations, with it being at the North and South concourse this time, but last year it was held at the West concourse. Because of the concourse change, it was like learning how to get into the convention center all over again. It wasn't overly complicated to find parking and figuring out where to go, but it did take up a lot of time to even get to our table. Now, this is the perfect segue to start talking about one of the worst things about attending this con, especially as an artist who's tabling there, and it's that you already drop so much money right off the bat before you even arrive. For vendors and artists, we had the option to pay for parking ahead of time, which is great and it does save time, but the price is so atrocious that I still can't believe it even to this day. Just on parking alone each day, it's $40, and if you wanted to pay for all 4 days, it's $160. I'm so grateful that we had a hotel that was walking distance to the con, so we didn't have to park at the con on Friday and Saturday. But because of this, we did pay $80 for Thursday and Sunday, which is still gross. This heavily emphasizes on how expensive cons are getting just to be there, and it only continues to validate my feelings on the state of conventions recently. And if you agree and think that parking is expensive, wait until I talk about the Wi-Fi situation later on. We finally got to our table and started setting up, which took about 1.5 to 2 hours for us. We made sure to also have our first comic issue printed, which is called Stitches, before the con started, and we're so grateful for the appreciation and support we've received for this comic during the weekend. And it was definitely surreal for us to sign and sell a lot of copies, so from the bottom of both of our hearts, thank you so much. And if you're watching this right now and you bought that comic at MegaCon, we really hope you enjoy it and let us know about your thoughts on it too. We proudly displayed our comic when we were close to finishing setting up, and we then left to rest up before the convention starts on Thursday. Now, I don't remember the hours of the con from last year, but I'm assuming they're either the same or closely similar to this year's hours. I do remember that last year's Thursday, hours were from 2 to 8 p.m. for the entire exhibitor and Artist Alley halls, but for this year, it was 2 to 9 p.m. Honestly, leaving the con at 9 p.m. was not ideal for me, nor was it ideal for anyone in the exhibitor halls, because sometimes restaurants would already be closed and it was just a late time in general. It was nice, however, that it started at a later time because I did see a lot of people arriving that morning to start setting up, and there was a lot of time to do that. For me and Philip, since we already finished setting up, we walked around for a while and talked to a lot of my friends who are local to Florida and who flew for this con. It was honestly great catching up with them since I don't normally see them at cons too often. When the first day of MegaCon started, it was VIP for 2 hours, but it kind of felt like even general attendees were starting to arrive because it got crowded really quickly. It always surprises me to see this type of crowd on a Thursday, but no matter what though, it's always going to be crowded because that's just the nature of MegaCon. It's grown to be such a large convention, so I'm expecting it to be even more people next year. It was honestly kind of difficult to get around the crowds when I needed to use the bathroom, but it was just one of those things where I had to get used to it. Unfortunately, as soon as the con started, literally as soon as, I lost Wi-Fi and service on my phone, literally the entirety of Thursday. But luckily, Phil's phone had Wi-Fi and service, so we ended up using his phone for that day, but I still couldn't believe that it immediately happened the moment the con began. I remember we lost Wi-Fi and service on Saturday, which was to be expected, but not Thursday, and I had neighbors around me who owned Solus hotspots, and those weren't working for them either. This happened as well for Friday, and I just continued to use Phil's phone. I eventually got fed up though, and I bought Wi-Fi on Saturday because I knew it was going to be packed, but sadly, it was $80. $80 for 1 day of Wi-Fi. Thankfully, I don't know what happened, but I didn't have to pay for Sunday's Wi-Fi because the Wi-Fi I bought on Saturday worked for Sunday too. So I guess I paid $40 per day, but it's still crazy. I kept hearing that signal blockers were being used, and it's so wild to me because not only did some artists and exhibitors lose money due to poor reception, but it's also dangerous. Like, what if there was an emergency and no one was able to call 911 unless they run around and find signal, which in that case would lose so much time during that emergency. And then charging $80 for Wi-Fi each day, if we had to pay for Wi-Fi for all 4 days, that's $320. Like, I'm glad that Saturday's Wi-Fi worked on Sunday for me, but I think it's extremely ridiculous to charge even more for Wi-Fi when we've already spent so much money to be there and to prepare for this con, especially in this economy. With having to pay for Wi-Fi, for parking, and for rebooking the table for next year, which was $500 for early bird artist tables, our entire earnings for Thursday and half of Friday had to go directly towards those costs. We luckily profited and had our expenses paid, but unfortunately, we earned less than last year. I've already mentioned in previous videos that MegaCon 2024 was my best convention of that year, but if I'm gonna be honest, looking at my earnings, MegaCon 2025 did not do as well. It was special because we had our comic debut, but we also had high expectations for this con in general, and it's truly upsetting to feel this way. I believe part of it was because not only was the Wi-Fi and service awful, but we were not in a good spot either. Like, we were closer to the back corner of Artist Alley when you look at the map, and a lot of people were walking through, but not as many people were buying this year. I think also the expansion of Artist Alley played a role as well, since I heard that they added, I think like 100 more artists. I'm not sure, but I really felt that this year. And I also want to mention that for some reason, they did not have signage for Artist Alley, like their table numbers in each row this year. I can't express how many times people came up to me and asked for my table number because it was so difficult navigating Artist Alley. And honestly, I kept feeling that we were getting incredibly effed over. Aside from the Wi-Fi problems, lack of signage, and other issues, I still had a great time chatting with everyone there, and being able to talk about our comic to so many people made our hearts happy, and that's what got us through this con. I appreciate everyone that stopped by our booth, said hi, and supported us. I know I say it in every video, but I really do appreciate it, and especially with our comic, we're truly grateful for that support. Even though this time around MegaCon wasn't the greatest money-wise for us, I hope that next year will improve. I heard that they're moving back to the West Concourse, so I'm curious to see if our experiences will improve because of that too. I'm also grateful that we earned enough to rebook for next year, so we can't wait to see everyone again at next year's convention. But yeah, that summarizes our experience at MegaCon 2025. Were you also there this year? And if so, how was your experience? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel before you leave, and I will see you guys in the next video.